Hello everyone, Rurikhan here bringing you guys another edition of Kast. This particular edition is going to be very, very special. This is going to be about Elder Scrolls Online. And with me to help me talk about Elder Scrolls Online, because I'm not that knowledgeable about that particular game, but I have someone with me that is very knowledgeable. And say something.
Something. So, who am I?
Something.
You don't know yet. What's up, guys? Motherfucking PallyTime back on Rui's channel because he just cannot get enough of me.
You're just so sexy that it's hard.
Here we go again, back down this road.
Exactly. So yeah, PallyTime has been doing a lot of research in regards to EZO, and he's also had a little bit more time in his hands than me the past couple of weeks because of all the sync issues that I've been dealing with. Goddamn sync issues are going to be the death of me.
Yeah, man, it does not sound fun at all. I'm glad I'm not the one dealing with that. I mean, I used to make those Super Meat Boy videos, and like I would rage so bad, and I feel like if I was dealing with those sync issues, there'd be just a bunch of rage going around all the time.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way that I've been feeling the past couple of weeks. But we're not here to talk about sync issues. So, Elder Scrolls Online. I've been mentioning for a couple of episodes back that I'm actually kind of excited to see what this game is going to be about, because I want to get back into an MMO. Since World of Warcraft, I haven't really been able to just land on an MMO and kind of stick with it because nothing has really grabbed me as much as World of Warcraft. How about you?
That's pretty much what I've been going through too. I mean, I've tried... I literally want to say every big title that's come out. I mean, I know you and I were in some Terra beta videos as well. I just can't find something to keep my interest long enough to actually commit to playing it.
Yeah, I mean, we've both done Terra. I think we've both done SWTOR. I've also done Guild Wars 2 since then, and Guild Wars 2 is actually really good, but they're still missing on a couple of things that hopefully the Elder Scrolls Online will achieve, but we're going to have to go ahead and see about that, if that's going to be possible or not.
Yeah.
So the first couple of things that we want to talk about is we want to talk about the setting of the game. And for that, I'm going to pass the word on to you because you're actually doing several videos about this already on your own channel where you go through, I mean, more concise videos about more about information itself other than discussion, which is the point of what we're doing here. So you guys can check, there's already 2 videos out on your channel, I believe?
Yeah, well, basically what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to gather information that we have. What I'm doing on my channel, like you said, is more about information and not about discussion or opinion. That's why I was excited to be a part of this with you, just so we could talk the shit and get our opinions out there. But what I'm trying to do is just consolidate information about everything you basically need to know about Elder Scrolls. And I've been trying to release 1 video a week about that. And so far I've done the setting, the basic story, and the geography of the land, and talking a little bit about the alliances and the classes.
Okay, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of that, but we're also going to be giving our own input on what they're doing wrong, doing right, and, all that kind of stuff. So tell us about the setting. We're going to be in Tamriel, and according to what I've been reading, we're going to be able to explore all the areas that have been in Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, so Elder Scrolls 3, 4, and 5, correct?
Yes. So basically Cyrodiil, which is where Oblivion was based, Cyrodiil is like this hotspot for conflict. It's this area in the center of everything that's going on, and each of the 3 alliances who are positioned around the map are trying to gain an edge to take over Cyrodiil. Throughout the game, that's where all of the PvP and stuff is going to take place. But basically, you have your 3 alliances in their 3 corners, the Ebonheart Pact, the Daggerfall Covenant, and the Aldmeri Dominion. And they're all gathering their forces and dealing with their own problems, and all the while still worrying about Cyrodiil.
So everybody wants a piece of that Cyrodiil. So basically kind of seems like one of the main things about it is that everybody wants control of Cyrodiil.
Well, absolutely. They all have their or their own reasons for that too. They're all driving forces for it. And it really does make it interesting just on what I've read so far. The Aldmeri Dominion, they want Cyrodiil because that was where they were from. I mean, the High Elves built the Imperial tower, the gold, I forgot what it's called, but the big tower in the middle of the Imperial City. The High Elves built that The Daggerfall Covenant thinks the High Elves should mind their own damn business, and that this is a human conflict, and they should be there. I think the Bretons were the big guys behind that. They should be there, controlling Cyrodiil, and then the Nords, they just want to kill everything. So they're walking into Cyrodiil to take that shit over.
I like the Nords. I really like the Nords' way of thinking because it's very dwarvish in a way. I mean, even though dwarves aren't very violent, they definitely have how should I put this? A very straightforward way of looking at things. It's like, look, I want this place. I'm gonna take this place. So yeah, I kind of dig. The problem with the Nords though is that a lot of people are going to be coming from Skyrim.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of people are going to be like, I'm gonna be a Nord, and that's the thing. It's something that is still basically clawing at me and kind of preventing me from committing to a race at this particular point.
Well, let me explain which each alliance is encompassed of. What makes up each alliance? So you were talking about the Nords. They're part of the Ebonheart Pact, and like you said, so many people just finished playing Skyrim. It was the most successful game in Elder Scrolls history by a pretty substantial margin from what I understand. So, a lot of people are going to want to be playing Nords. And then the problem is, and I do think this is a problem, we were kind of talking about this a little before we started recording. The Dark Elves and the number one race all time, Argonians, are in that same covenant. They're in that same alliance. I think there's going to be a huge population bubble in the Ebonheart Pact. What do you think?
I just kind of laughed a little bit when you said, "Oh, the Argonians, the number one of all time." They're friggin' lizards, dude. Okay, just get over yourself.
Dude, Argonian bros. You can't turn your back on the Argonian bros.
But anyways, we already know who's in the Ebonheart Pact. What about the other ones?
Well, we have the Daggerfall Covenant. That is consisting of the Bretons, the Red Guards, and the Orcs. And they actually seem like they're pretty stable. They actually seem like they're going for the same thing. They just want to be able to do stuff without, and keep stuff safe. Like, they want to establish commerce. They want to make sure that they can protect their lands without stuff getting messed up. Whereas the Ebonheart Pact, going back to them, I apologize, they have trouble keeping their own alliance together, it sounds like. Like, they're bickering between themselves. They don't even have a general leader yet. They actually have a leader for each race representing their race. They can't even come to a decision on who they want their leader to be. I think that's a little interesting. But the Daggerfall Covenant has the High King Emmerich, and like I said, he just wants to take over Cyrodiil. He wants to take over the Imperial City just to kind of balance out what's going on in the world, make it a little bit safer. And then you have the Aldmeri Dominion, who is led by a High Elf. She's also with the Wood Elves and the Khajiit, and they think that, hey, this is our place, we want it back kind of mentality.
They're elves, so that's definitely one of the alliances that I'm not going to join because you can't trust elves. And then the other ones are Khajiit, which are kind of like cat people, and I don't like cats, so I can't join the Aldmeri Dominion or whatever the hell they're called, simply because of that. I'm sorry. I'm going to be kicking those guys' asses pretty much when it comes to PvP. It's going to happen like that.
See, I've always seen the High Elves as like the typical elitist. Like, if I was to put an image in my mind of what an elitist is, it would be a High Elf, because they seem to think they're the best at everything. And when I was looking for footage to put into my video I did about the specific factions, one of the first things that came up when I was looking for something to go with High Elves was a picture of a High Elf with the Nazi symbol on his head, and I was like, that's pretty fitting. That's pretty good.
A High Elf with a swastika?
Yeah.
Okay, that's some good stuff right there. Okay, so that is pretty much the whole setting of the thing. So at the start, though, each story, let's put it like that. I mean, it's kind of I would almost say it's a little bit spoilerish, but pretty much everyone and their mother already knows about this, the whole Molag Bal thing. You want to elaborate a little bit on that? Is that going to be the opening for every single faction, or how is that going to work?
Yeah,
because that's the only thing I've heard so far.
Basically, from what I understand, every player character has had their soul taken by Molag Bal. And that's kind of how they try to explain your ability to be resurrected in this game. I'm sure you played Skyrim on master difficulty, so I'm sure you're familiar with the fact that when you die in Skyrim, for instance, you're dead and you have to go back to where your last save was. Well, there's not saves in an MMO, obviously. So they try to explain why you can be resurrected through the Molag Bal storyline. And your main objective, the overarching story, is for you to eventually get to Molag Bal and get your soul back, which I don't know why you would want the ability to die. So
yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. It's like, so you mean that he took our soul and now we can't die? That seems like it's actually a pretty good trade-off.
Yeah, I'm sure there's more details that haven't been released yet, but that's typically the understanding that I think most people have at this point. And along with that, there's a guy named Mani Marco, who is this necromancer, this really powerful necromancer who's been in a few different Oblivion games right now. And he is kind of siding with Molag Bal in secrecy while also helping the current family in charge of the Imperial City. So he's kind of playing both sides, saying he's going to help the Imperial City, but really helping Molag Bal in his super evil plot. And yeah... It sounds like a mess, honestly. It sounds like a mess. I mean, the Imperial City right now, their leaders are Daedra worshippers. They're conspiring with necromancers to basically give them a huge army. They want an endless swarm of an army. And it should be pretty interesting, honestly, depending on how it's implemented.
Yeah, Molag Bal, stealing people's souls and whatnot. So
Molag
every
Bal.
single race is going to go through that, though. Then Molag Bal is kind of like Santa Claus. He's all over the place. Because I imagine, or is everyone going to have like the same starting location? I'd imagine no. Everybody's going to have different starting locations.
No, there's going to be stories based on, your race and your alliance and where you start out. That's just kind of the big overarching thing. Like always in the back of your mind, something you're always working towards as you're completing other tasks and learning more about the story around you and that kind of thing.
Okay. So that is pretty much what you guys can expect from the setting. Obviously, as we get more information, we will be releasing it on the next Kast EZO edition to open it up for some further discussion and maybe discover exactly why is getting our souls back a good thing. But in the meantime, we also wanted to talk a little bit about gameplay mechanics, because obviously that is one of the major things when you get into an MMO. It's like, the way the MMO plays out is pretty much essential to your whole experience. I mean, if you're going to be playing a specific MMO and you're like, I don't really like the combat of this MMO, then doing the whole Kill 10 Boris quest a whole bunch of times is going to get really, really boring.
I mean, at the end of the day, I really think that's the most important part. I mean, you and I both play, it's not an MMO, but you and I both play a game with zero story associated at all by the name of course, League of Legends. It's one of the most popular games on the internet right now, and it just has the fundamentals of good gameplay. The story doesn't really matter, but the good gameplay is what keeps you coming back to that title. And like I said, I know it's not an MMO, but an MMO should go by the same standards of having that engaging gameplay, because not everyone's a lore nut, right? I mean, how much do you get into lore?
I mean, I get a little bit into lore. The thing, though, is it's like if you're going to make me quests in a way that I'm going to go up to an NPC that's got an exclamation mark on top of his head, and I'm going to go up to him and he's going to tell me, you need to go collect 10 rat asses. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And he's not even going to say anything. He's just going to say, hi. Then this big text pops up. And it's like, go get me 10 rat asses. And then you go get those 10 rat asses. You come back and he's going to be, now go get me 10 goblin ears.
So, of course, the other side of that coin, right, would be the way that Star Wars approached it, which is where you get taken out of everything. You get immersion. You get some immersion of breaking cutscenes, I feel like. I mean, I was taken out of the experience every time I talked to someone in Star Wars, in SWTOR. And then they have everything voiced and everything dialogued, and you get these nice cutscenes back and forth. What did you think about that?
Well, that's the thing. I liked it, but the problem with SWTOR, I felt, is that there really wasn't that much consequence to your choices.
No.
For instance, you would do a quest where it's like at the end of the quest you had facing off against this villain or whatever for the specific zone you were in, and you'd be given a choice, like you would either kill the villain or forgive him and let him live. And it's like, in and of itself, that's not even a huge deal because it's like you're never going to remember that villain once you leave that particular zone. But then on top of that, there's also the fact that it's like, okay, I'll choose to kill him and my character will just shoot him in the face. He's dead. If you choose not to kill him, a lot of the times it's like he will try to get to you and your character will fight back and kill him anyways. Mm-hmm. And it's like the only thing that really changes is, oh, look, 50 points towards light, 50 points towards dark. So, that's the biggest deal for me. For starters, a lot of the times there wasn't really a choice. It's just the illusion of a choice. And then there's also the fact that I don't really need a big cinematic moment if all you're really going to do is have me collect 10 rat asses. So, which also happened. It's like you'd be having this elaborate discussion and in the end, all you really got to do is go over there, kill 10 people, come back to me.
See, you would agree that those are both the two extremes, right?
Yeah, those are the two extremes. It's like I want to have meaningful cutscenes and stuff like that, which I'm not sure if they're going to be implemented in Elder Scrolls Online or not, because not even Skyrim had that many points, I don't think, where you actually made like a really big choice, so to speak, in the same style that SWTOR would consider like, this is a big choice for you right now, So I'm not sure if those scenes are even going to be there, but I would like to have a somewhat cinematic experience. But something I would also like to have is less quests. Instead, just let me go off and explore.
Okay, two things. The first one is they are trying to do something in the middle. All of their quests are going to be voice acted. Everything is going to have voiceovers, from what I understand. Now, I hope I'm not misquoting, but everything is going to be voiced, so it's going to feel like a Skyrim game. It's going to feel like an Elder Scrolls game. Now, I agree with what you're saying about your choices should be meaningful. What you do should be meaningful. But at the same time, I understand that they're trying to convey the same story to every person. You know what I mean? They're, Molag Bal stole your soul. That still has to be your endpoint. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And about the exploration, they said that in a developer interview, one of the first bits of media that they released, they said that their questing is going to work basically however you want it to work. It's not going to be, hey, where do I go to do the next quest? It's going to be, hey, I'm on this quest, and that looks cool over there. I'm going to go look at it, and maybe you'll find another quest over there. It made it sound, in the developer interview, it made it sound like there's going to be a very high likelihood that you're going to encounter interesting things whenever you find an area that looks like it's worth exploring.
That's a good thing, because that's definitely one of the things that I really appreciated about Guild Wars 2 when I played Guild Wars 2 is the fact that it's like, for starters, there's no quests. There's absolutely no quests whatsoever. It's not like, you got your main quest. I'm sorry, there's one quest.
There's one quest.
There's one quest. You got your main quest, which is kind of like your storyline quest, which depends upon the choices that you made at the start of the game. And that is the only quest marker that you're really going to have on your map throughout the whole experience all the way up to level 80. And then what you can do is there's several stuff along the way. Like, for instance, there might be events, and those events will gain you, what was it that you get? I'm not sure if it's faction, whatever. You gain some kind of percentage towards hearts that appear in your map. And obviously the completionist people are going to go do all the hearts. But it's like, what I ended up doing a lot of the time is like, look, I feel like going over here. So I would go there and I'm like, this place looks cool. I'm going to do a couple of hearts here. And then it's like, I'm tired of this place. I'm going to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And you don't ever have to level at one specific place. There were always at least like 3 or 4 choices for pretty much every single level bracket that you're in. There's always like 3 or 4 different choices of places that you can go to do levels and stuff like that. And you can also level up through different ways. I'm not sure exactly how leveling up will work in here because, again, there's not a whole lot of details coming out, but it seems like it's going to be pretty much quest-based. You're going to go someplace, get a couple of quests, kill some monsters, most likely, hand in those quests and get experience, right?
It sounds like that's going to be the main way for PvEers. Now, you can actually level up through PvP. I think they said level 10 is when you can start doing PvP, and I'm sure we'll talk more about the specifics of that later on in this particular cast, but you will be able to get XP from that, which is kind of becoming the industry standard, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, being able to level up through PvP, because there are several people that just want to get into this kind of stuff and just do PvP. So, I mean, I think it's always going to be an option going forward. So something else in gameplay mechanics, a lot of people were talking about first-person mode because the first plans they had for the game was to not include an actual first-person mode. I mean, like every other MMO, you'll be able to fully zoom into first-person view, but you weren't going to be able to see your hands like you have in Skyrim, your hands, your weapons, your shield, whatever. And apparently they changed that now because there was a massive outcry. No, I want to have my Skyrim experience. I want to be able to play in first-person mode. And I'm like, MMOs are not really made to be played in first-person mode, I don't think. I mean, specifically this kind of MMOs where you actually do group activities and whatnot, you usually want to have a better awareness of your surroundings, so third-person view is always going to be better than first-person view. Then again, there's also people that want to kind of really immerse themselves into the game, but to be honest, I don't think that first-person mode really needed to be implemented. I mean, even in Skyrim, I tried playing in third person as much as I possibly could, but the combat just worked better in first person.
I see both sides of the coin here. If it was any other MMO, I would agree. Well, I agree with both sides, too. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm somewhere in the middle on this. If it was any other MMO, if it was just generic MMO name here, I wouldn't care about first person at all. But the fact is, they're calling it Elder Scrolls Online. And in Elder Scrolls games, you have, it's centered around, like you said, it works best in first person. Now, that being said, I do like first person. I do like having the shield and sword in your hand. It is very immersive. But those are based on single player games. We are not going to be encountering a lot of enemies at a time. And for the most part, you're going to know where those enemies are coming from. Like if you're, for instance, whenever I talk about this, I think about that first mine in Skyrim. And I know you did that mine because I saw your video on it forever ago. That first mine as you're leaving Havengard or whatever that city was that got burnt down by the dragon. You go into the mine and it's literally walk straight through. And you know where every enemy is coming from. So having a first-person mode in an environment like that works great. Now that being said, one of the main driving things in the Elder Scrolls Online is, of course, PvP combat. That's what they're talking about the most. That's what they seem to be the most proud of. And in PvP, you do not want to be tunnel visioning. That won't work. You will be blown up in PvP if you don't have a complete view all the way around you. And I think people that play in first-person mode in PvP, this is pure speculation, but I think those people are going to be at a pretty distinct disadvantage.
And I was even thinking about something else. Even if we're talking just about PvE, how long do you expect people to be making petitions in forums and whatnot saying, we don't want to have respawns, or respawns need to come slower because they'll like go into a dungeon or some other place that's like, you know, kind of doing the Skyrim thing. They're getting into this mine and whatever, and they're just in first person mode, killing monsters. All of a sudden something respawns behind them and rapes them straight up. Well, I mean, can you imagine people going up the forums, oh, respawns are too fast?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, honestly. And
because I mean, monsters respawn all the time in MMOs, particularly if you're like in a crowded area where there's like a ton of people killing stuff.
Yeah.
And you're in first person mode, something's gonna spawn behind you. It's just bound to happen.
Absolutely. Now, each region is instanced. It is instanced because have you heard much about how the server's actually going to work?
How the server? You're talking about server technology?
Yeah.
The servers themselves? Well, there's going to be one thing called a mega server, and
Great
everybody's going to be on the mega server.
It's a great name.
Which obviously is pretty much a lie, because you're not going to put, like, let's say, for some reason, this game gets like, 2 million players. I'm not sure because we've all seen that it's hard to launch an MMO right now with Warcraft around. So let's say that, 2 million players might be an optimistic view of the situation. But let's say 2 million players. You're not going to put 2 million players in the same physical server. It's not going to happen. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be asking people stuff like how often do you play? Are you casual or hardcore? How old are you? Do you want to play with people on the same age as you? That kind of thing. And based on that, they're going to put you on this little instanced server. Now, the advantage of this is that you can apparently, at least I assume, you're going to be able to switch to servers where your friends are at any given time. Like, just party up with your friends, and it will switch you to their server, hopefully. Because the way they're selling it, it better do that. Otherwise, it's going to be really, really bad.
Yeah, I remember reading something where they said that was the whole intention. And you would be more likely, when you're entering another area, you'd be more likely to be placed in an instance that your friends were already in.
Yeah, but the whole server is, like you said, instanced. But your point about that was?
I was just wondering if you had heard much about the mega servers, because what it sounds like to me is, I don't know when the last time you played World of Warcraft was. They added this in right about the time I was quitting the game, but they added in the functionality to be able to join a realm of someone that's on your real ID friends list. So let's say you play on Kill Jaden and I play on Bleeding Hollow. That really is insignificant because I can go into your zone. So
you can actually have your friends come over to your server?
Yes, as long as you stay in the same group.
Does it go overseas as well?
I have no idea. No idea in that regard.
I'm pretty sure it won't.
I'm pretty sure it won't too. But, it's that same kind of idea, but you don't have those divisions in place of, this is my realm and that's your realm. It's all in the same thing, but you're still going to be instanced off. It's not like you're going to log in and see 20 million people in front of you kind of thing. It just sounds interesting to me. I would really like to see how it's implemented, because I know one of the things I hated the most about World of Warcraft, and I know a lot of people agree with me on this, is in Icecrown, for instance, was one of the best zones to show this off in. Icecrown was based on the world changing around you as you completed quests. So let's say Rurikhan, you are the type of completionist player that goes everywhere, does everything, does every quest. You're a lore master. Well, that doesn't really fit into motherfucking PallyTime style. So I would do the quests I needed, move on to the next area, whatever. If I needed your help on something, you would come to help me and not be able to see me because I'm in a separate instance from you. And that really bothered me a lot. Those are actually not called instances. That's the technology that Blizzard named phasing. Yeah.
But yeah, I've actually experienced that quite a few times indeed. Like, sometimes we would even have trouble organizing our raids.
Oh yeah.
Because, like you said, it's an Icecrown Citadel, so we wouldn't be able to see people, then people would not come into the same raid instances as the rest of the group. Dude, it was terrible. It was horrible.
I absolutely agree.
And I have to tell you, though, that I believe that, according to what I've read so far, there's going to be a lot of phasing in Elder Scrolls Online as well.
I just hope they find some happy median between the two.
Yeah, because the whole thing about not being able to see your friends, it was terrible. And I even remember sometimes you would even see their name for a couple of seconds when you landed, and then they were gone.
Oh, my favorite one, when it was first implemented, you're on your flying mount, you're flying through, I'm just going to auto-follow my friend and go AFK. I ran into a bug a few times where I would be following my friend, he goes into a phase, and I just dismount for no reason and fall.
And fall and die.
Yeah,
yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I like the whole thing, the idea of mega servers. As a matter of fact, imagine this particular scenario right now. If you and I wanted to both play Guild Wars 2, which you have and I have as well, we're going to be on different servers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not going to be able to. I mean, I believe they're implementing something, or they have already implemented something called guesting, which is you're also able to pull your friends into your server, whatever, something like that. But then you can't go to world versus world, and you can't do all this other stuff, and it's just annoying, the whole server thing. And I'm glad they're doing this mega server thing. I'm glad. I mean, despite the fact that I know that behind the scenes it's not one server. If the technology,
if you don't think about it too much, it sounds great.
yeah, if you don't think about it too much, it sounds, oh, it's amazing. They've got this revolutionary thing. They got this computer that can handle 2 million people. No, they don't. Forget about it. But it's. I hope that it actually works the way they're planning, so that you can get rid of all that messy server thing. Although you know what this is also going to create, right? When this game releases, they better have like 2 million servers.
God, they better be ready. What makes or breaks games is their initial release. I mean, look at SimCity right now. Look at how much bad publicity that game has going for it right now. And it's all because of the release.
Yeah, pretty much. Because everyone that plays it says they even like the game. They say the game is actually really good. But, I mean, it's actually really good when we can play it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now I wanted to talk a little bit about classes. We've been going pretty much all over the place, but that is the point of a podcast style show, though. We're going to be going all over the place. So let's talk a little bit about classes. I mean, 3 classes that we know of so far, I believe, or was it 4?
Which ones are you talking about? And I'll add in.
I'm talking about Dragon Knight, Templar, and Sorcerer.
The Warden and the Nightblade have been mentioned, but not confirmed.
Okay, so basically there's going to be a total of 6 classes, I believe?
6, yeah.
So right now we know of the Dragon Knight and the Templar. Those 2 are confirmed. Then we've both read about the Sorcerer, and you've read about the Warden and the Nightblade.
I saw their names mentioned. I don't know any details. I just saw the names mentioned.
Okay, so Nightblade sounds to me like kind of a roguish type character. Warden sounds like a healer. Sorcerer, obviously range DPS with magic. Templar. So, I mean, I'm guessing we're missing an archer here.
Yeah, archer sounds like what's missing to me too.
Yeah.
Or like a pure, rogue-esque class with a bow and daggers and stuff that doesn't rely much on magic.
Yeah, so the Templar seems like it's going to be like a paladin type thing. And the Dragon Knight is going to be like a warrior, I would assume. I mean, just kind of broad terms.
Yeah, we're really we're trying to put these into a category. We're trying just to get a basic understanding, but there's a lot of freedom as far as class progression goes.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, as we were discussing before we started, this classes in this game actually work a lot like, I mean, which is funny saying this, but they work a lot like Dark Souls.
It can be compared to Dark Souls. Let's put it that way.
It can be compared to Dark Souls, yeah, because the way they're saying it, anyways, in their interviews and whatever, whenever they talk about classes, the way they're selling it is almost they can be kind of like Dark Souls. And for the people that don't know that much about Dark Souls, I can give you another MMO example, kind of like Ultima Online, which is your class is just your starting point. It probably defines the gear you start with, defines the first couple of skills you're going to have access to. But after that, you can become anything. So if you want to roll a Dragon Knight and then eventually evolve to a Dragon Knight that does heals, I'm assuming you'll be able to do so, even though it's probably not going to be the best idea because you're going to be, I mean, let's face it. If you want to really min-max the whole thing, you don't want to make a Dragon Knight and then become a healer.
Really, I think that's what it's going to come down to, the whole min-max idea. Because, well, before we get into that, the armor in this game. Would you like to discuss that, or should I take that?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about the armor, because like we were talking, the whole thing about classes can be kind of like in Dark Souls or Ultima Online. It pretty much means that you can be a mage and run around in heavy armor if that's your thing. You're not going to be as effective at casting magic, but you can do it if you want.
Yeah, there's going to be certain ramifications for all of your decisions that you make, but specifically for armor, the heavy armor is going to require more stamina for you to lug around in, and obviously you're going to have more protection from that. But let's say you're a caster, yeah, you're going to be less squishy. You're going to be able to survive more hits, but you're not going to have that mana ability, that mana regen or magicka, excuse me, whatever you want to be technical with. You're not going to be able to cast spells as effectively as if you were wearing the light armor. So I think there's going to be a nice balance, honestly. That's how I think I'm going to be playing this game. Find a nice balance of heavy armor and the cloth stuff in order to just fill my needs. I think that's what they're trying to go for.
Yeah, I mean, I actually really like that because, I mean, if you really look at it in a way, like if you look at it in a realistic sort of way, I mean, as much realism as you can actually put into a fantasy game.
Yeah.
But if you look at it in a realistic way, there's not a whole lot really preventing someone from being a wizard and still being physically strong.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it kind of makes sense that if a wizard wishes to run around in armor, he can do that. It's probably not going to be the best thing ever, but who knows? Maybe you'll be able to find some crazy combination that makes you really overpowered because you become really tanky and can still cast a couple of cool spells that you like, whatever. There might be people doing that thing. I mean, I can already see a lot of people are going to be wanting to do battle mages.
Oh, yeah. I think that's going to be incredibly popular.
That's going to be a thing for sure. I'm not into that kind of stuff. I just want to be like I want to be the shield slammer. That's what I want to be. I want to be the class that can do shield slams with the best effectiveness. So seriously, I mean this really seriously, ZeniMax, you guys need to give me a decent shield slam. Like, I don't even need weapons. Just give me a decent shield
Give
slam.
Give him 2 shields.
No. I don't want 2 shields because 2 shields looks retarded. You can actually use 2 shields in Dark Souls, by the way, but 2 shields looks retarded. You look like, I don't know which hand to use my weapon with, so I put 2 shields. But I would very much like to have a really, really good shield slam. So that's just the thing for me. But yeah, we were talking about classes and how they're just kind of the starting point for whatever you end up doing.
Well, to go a little bit more in depth with that, not only can you pick the armor that you want your character to wear, but I don't know if it's going to be on every level up or, every 5 levels or whatever. But I would imagine it's every level up because that's how the previous Elder Scrolls have been. You're going to get to assign what you want to upgrade as far as your health, your stamina, or your magicka. So increase your health obviously increases your survivability. Increasing your stamina would increase the number of power attacks you can do, but also the amount of blocking and potentially sprinting that you could do. And obviously magicka, if you increase that, it'll increase your magicka regen and also the amount of spells that you can cast just off of your base mana pool. So even if you're going for a pure class, like even if you are going to be tank Rurikhan going in with shield bashing, you're still going to have to find what you think is the best balance between stamina and health. And I guess that's up to the player's discretion. I mean, I'm sure someone's going to find a way down the road to min-max that certain balance. But I just love the idea that you could do whatever you want with your character. That's such a powerful thing to think about going into a game.
Yeah, I haven't seen that done in MMOs since, like I said, Ultima Online.
Yeah.
Because in Ultima Online, it was pretty much the same thing. You would choose how much strength do I want to have. And then I remember I used to chop down trees to gain strength on my character. I hope it doesn't go that deep into it, but but that was some cool. That's the cool thing. I really am a sucker for customizability. I just hope that they also give us respec options, though. Have they mentioned anything about that?
I haven't read anything about that, but I hope they do too.
They better give us some respec options because can you imagine like, oh, I've just done 100 hours in this character.
Dude.
I'm going to go ahead and start over.
For people like me, I've deleted Dark Soul characters I have 20 hours on just because I spent 1 point bad. Like, I min-max like there is no tomorrow. So if I don't have the ability to respec, I'm about to have some problems.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I can't count how many hours I have in Dark Souls, though. It's gone.
It's probably best if we don't try to count.
Yeah, let's not count that. But so let's talk a little bit about the combat as well, because it's a good thing we've talked about how you can pick between health, magicka, and stamina, because that's actually something that probably not a lot of MMO players have seen stamina, I want to say. Because in most MMOs, I mean, I know that you have you have mana, and in certain MMOs you even get another resource that will let you do something special every now and then. But I don't think that there's an MMO that I've played up until this point that actually Ultima Online gave you stamina as well, now that I think about it. Yeah.
The thing
it gave you stamina in the same way.
I'm sorry. The thing I would most closely compare it to would be the rogue's energy bar, but then the rogue doesn't have any other resource to worry about. I'm speaking of World of Warcraft, of course.
Yeah. Well, they have another resource. Don't they have combo points or whatever that thing's called?
They do. Yeah.
They have combo points, but yeah, it's pretty much like you said. It's kind of like the rogue's energy bar, which is basically your actions are going to cost stamina. Does casting spells also cost stamina, though? I'm not a big spellcaster in Skyrim, so casting spells only costs magicka.
Correct. Oh, at least in previous games, that's all.
Exactly. So we're going to assume that's what's going to happen on this one as well. But the stamina mechanic is basically what's going to allow you to do, like you said, sprinting, blocking. So you can't just, I'm going to hold my shield up forever. It's like you hold up your shield, you take a couple of swings, your stamina is going to be gone. So the shield needs to be used strategically. The same thing for your magicka. You need to use your magicka strategically. I like the fact that there's this stamina stat there so that people can't just, I'm going to full throttle run away forever. You're never going to catch me, you know?
It really adds another layer of skill to the equation. It really does.
Because you can't just spam abilities either. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and spam attack you. It isn't going to work like that, because if you spam attack and I'll dodge or do something else with it, you're going to have problems. And that's the other thing that I've read recently, that you're also going to be having dodge mechanics. Did you know about that?
I read that. I didn't look into it too much. The only other game I can think of with dodge mechanics would be Guild Wars. Guild Wars 2.
Yeah, Guild Wars 2. And it's actually very similar to Guild Wars 2, according to what I read. I read that it basically you double tap where you want to dodge to, and it's going to make your character dodge. But it's going to spend, apparently it's going to spend a lot of stamina, so it needs to be very, very well used.
In Guild Wars 2, were you immune to damage while you were dodging?
Yep.
So, as long as basically, again, back to Dark Souls terminology, it basically gave you immunity frames.
Yeah, it gives you invincibility frames. I'm not sure if that's what's going to happen in Elder Scrolls Online. Yeah. It's what happened in Guild Wars 2. Yeah, while you're dodging, you get invincibility frames.
Well, we haven't discussed this yet, but the targeting system in Elder Scrolls Online, for a spellcaster or for an archer, they're going to have to aim their attack, right? Or at least softly aim their attack. It's not like it's not super precise, but I would be a little upset if I predicted your dodge. Let's say I knew you were going to dodge to the left because you were against a wall or something to that extent. I predicted that dodge and then shot a spell where I thought you were going to be. If you were in mid-dodge, if you had invincibility frames, I'd be a little upset, you know?
Well, I guess you're going to have to go ahead and be upset, because otherwise I don't see what's the whole point in the dodging mechanic.
Kind of like a juke kind of thing. Like in League of Legends, you're trying to, well, at least that's how I envisioned it. That in my ideal world, you trick someone into thinking you're going one direction and then go the other.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I don't know exactly how they're going to balance it out, because again, we haven't had access to the game. I believe we're both registered to get on the beta, right?
Oh yeah,
you registered as well?
First second I heard about it, I was on top of that. I was on top of that. Here.
So ZeniMax, put us in the beta and we'll do a proper report about this. But the thing is, I think there need to be invincibility frames. Otherwise, I'm not exactly sure how useful dodge is going to be, especially considering the thing that what I read is that dodge is actually very stamina intensive. Mm-hmm. So it's like you're going to spend a chunk of your stamina and your dodge isn't even going to be that impressive. The thing is, they need to just balance it out. They give you the invincibility frames, but not like, for instance, in Dark Souls, they don't give you the invincibility frames throughout the whole dodge.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of it, which is why you got to time your dodges very precisely. They give you a little bit of invincibility frames, but it's like it's not the whole way through. So if you predict my dodge, you'll just have to make sure that you, when you're shooting, your arrow is going to land as I'm about to stop dodging. Let's
And
put it like that.
maybe back to the spellcaster's point of view. Let's say I'm throwing an AoE spell at you.
Well, it's not going to make much of a difference for me because, I mean, if you're going to throw an AoE spell, even if I dodge, I'm probably still going to be inside the AoE
Well,
if you're a good shot.
This is what I think. I think if you're dodging through the AoE spell, then good, you dodge the AoE spell. But if I predict the dodge and hit you with a single target spell that I aimed, predicting the dodge, I kind of think the single target one should hit. I don't know. I hope they find a good balance. I do hope they find a good balance.
I hope they find a good balance with that as well because, again, that's going to be one of the major things. The combat is going to be, again, one of the things that will also make or break the game, if the combat is fun or not. Now, something else about the combat is that you're going to be able to do combat in the same style that you do in the other Elder Scrolls games. So you're actually going to be able to left-click to swing your weapon, right-click to block, or to, I suppose, use your other hand, I assume.
Yeah.
Not exactly sure how that's going to work. I mean, suppose you can equip a spell in a hand or something, or do a skill, something like that.
I don't know. I don't know the mechanics behind that.
Yeah, I don't know the mechanics behind that either. But again, it's going to be very similar to that, and you're also going to be able to charge up attacks with your sword, and that is obviously going to consume more stamina.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that? Do you like that kind of combat? Do you think that's going to translate well to an MMO?
Yeah, I think that adds more of a strategy to, again, stamina management. Do I use this stamina to block an attack? Do I use the stamina to dodge? Or do I see an opening here and do I want to use that stamina to go offensive? I mean, I think that all lends itself very well to being able to play at your play style and also to the skill level of knowing when to use each of these things.
Yeah, like I said, it's definitely going to be adding a skill element, which I hope they really play with that skill element to kind of prevent this from becoming a button masher like World of Warcraft. Because I remember I used to play a tank. I'm not sure which role you played. I played a tank pretty much all the time. As a matter of fact, I had a warrior tank, a paladin tank, and a death knight tank. And I never did druids because I'm not into furries.
You're not into bears.
I actually couldn't stand that because I did not like the fact that
all you're doing is looking at a bear ass the whole time.
No, that's not even the point. The point is like I'm evolving my character, and the character when I'm actually playing it is not showing. Like, oh man, I got these amazing shoulders. Yeah, but I'm gonna be staring at this fucking bear the whole time.
Exactly.
It's terrible. So that's the reason why I never really did druids. But I did all of the tanks. And the thing about tanking is as much as a lot of people, because I know that there were a lot of tanks out there who were just pretty much prima donnas when they were tanking.
Oh, yeah.
They were like, you do exactly like I say. You never pull ahead of me. You never do, whatever. There was a lot of tanks like that. I was not like that at all. I'm like, look, if a DPS wants to pull, as long as he doesn't die, I honestly don't care. Pull, bring it to me. I'll try to tank it as best as I can. If you die, it's your own damn problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So I never took that prima donna attitude. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that these tanks that played like prima donnas, they'd like to make people believe that it's like tanking takes a lot of skill. And I was like, no, it doesn't. You just spam these buttons here. Just spam like these 3, 4, 5 abilities all the time. Make macros as best as possible to keep spamming these abilities. That's what tanking is. And using your cooldowns at the right times. But I mean, that's pretty much what tanking was. It's just spam these abilities. I really, really enjoyed the way that Guild Wars 2 did it, which was, for starters, there were no tanks. But I'm not talking about going that far off the deep end with no Holy Trinity, because something that I've also learned with Guild Wars 2 is that I actually like the Holy Trinity because I like playing a tank. But the thing is, I liked the way that it was not about spamming buttons or being really powerful and having the best gear. It was skill-based. It's like, this thing's going to happen, you're going to have to dodge it. Or this thing's going to happen, there's nothing you can do about it, you're going to have to save your healing skill for this particular time. It was a lot more about individual player skill than spamming buttons. You almost didn't spam buttons at all when you were playing Guild Wars 2.
Yeah, I've actually heard. As we've discussed, I've never really gotten into Guild Wars 2. I got a few characters to level like 13 or so. Just couldn't find the time to commit then, and never really got back into it since then. But I've heard a lot of complaints about them not having the Trinity system. For instance, the other role of the tank is not only keeping everyone else alive, but also being that, pillar of guidance. This is the pace we're setting. This is the route we're taking, that kind of thing. And I've heard or read a lot of complaints about Guild Wars 2 is everyone's just kind of in it for themselves, and the pacing's off, and all of a sudden someone will run away when they're not ready, and that kind of thing. And I think having a tank along just for that is good.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I also liked about being a tank is setting the pace.
Yeah.
I really, really like that. And again, it's one of the things that I actually miss. But what I mean is that having the tank also makes you, when you're playing a DPSer, it makes you very, how should I put it? It makes you not be so reactive to what's happening around you. You're like, he's tanking this thing, I'm going to go ahead, go behind it, and smash my face against the keyboard and go crazy.
So basically what you're saying is when the tank's there, the DPS don't have to pay as much attention.
Exactly.
Okay.
When the tank is there, the DPSers don't have to pay as much attention.
Yeah,
It's something that I really liked in that game is that everybody needed to be on their toes at all times. Because there's no tank there to save them, they always have to know, okay, this thing is going to come at me, it's going to hit me really hard, there's no aggro, I better save my defensive skills, my dodges, all that stuff. And that created skill-based gameplay. So I hope that the fact that they have the Holy Trinity here is not going to remove that style of skilled gameplay, because I love that. And that's something that I really expect to have in this game as well. It's like, look, I want to be the tank. I want to be taking the damage from my group, but I also want there to be things that keep my group on their toes, because something that would happen in World of Warcraft is you would get these DPSers that, like, they're just used to not dodging anything, not doing anything, and whenever something goes a little bit wrong, they'll panic and die instantly.
Yeah.
Instantly, it's like, oh crap, I got aggro. I better run away, as far away from the tank as possible. They'll just run and aggro the whole room because they have no idea what the hell's going on. And that is bad. When you play with good DPSers, because they'll know to run to the tank. They'll know to do certain things, like if they aggro, they'll know how to deal with the situation. Whereas when you have these DPSers that are just used to having the tank do everything for them and having the healers to always heal them at all times, they just get lax and they don't care about anything. And then they whine and bitch and moan. So I'm hoping that there's still, a big level of skill required to actually do stuff despite having the Holy Trinity.
There's something I was going to save for a later discussion, but there was an article that was released recently about some players that were testing the game. They went into a dungeon at about level 12. I would assume that this is, the first dungeon you would go into. Level 12 is pretty early. And I can't remember their class makeup. I know they had two Templars dual wielding, a sorcerer, and I don't remember the other thing. They had a really obscure class makeup. It wasn't a tank 2 DPS healer type thing. It was not the conventional makeup. And they said that they made it all the way through this dungeon, and something along the lines of, it took them a little while, quote. Well, not really quote, but that was the general gist of what they said. But they were able to clear the whole thing as their own unique class. Now, some people are taking that to mean that, that just incentivizes the fact that you're not going to need a tank. You're not going to need a dedicated healer. You can make these super hybrid classes and, conquer... I think they blew this a little bit out of proportion, but conquer any difficulty of this game. Anything the game has to throw at you. I see that.
That's funny.
I see that as I see that in a few different ways. Number one, they cleared a level 12 dungeon. Congratulations. It's like going into RFC and WoW, and you can do that with anything. I mean, I've literally had Warlock pet tank all the mobs in that, and we get through it no problem. Yes, it takes a little bit longer. Are we able to do it? Yeah, no problem. That's kind of what I see this as. I think the most effective way to get through things is going to have tanks, DPS, healer. Standard MMO gameplay. That's going to be the most effective way to go through things. But if you want to do things different, and you have a group of people who will accept you doing things different, I think, I don't know. I think it could be okay.
Here's the thing. For starters, even in World of Warcraft, this is pretty much rule of thumb. If you have an organized setup, which seems to be the case, right? These guys were like talking through Skype or sitting next to each other as they were playing the game, correct?
I'm not sure.
Well, let's assume that they were, because okay. you did say they were like a group of people who were playing together. So I'm assuming that they were playing together and they were communicating with each other and they were organized in some fashion and they were somewhat knowledgeable of each of their own classes as well as its limitations.
Yeah, that would be a big factor into their ability to communicate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that at the end of the day, you can go to World of Warcraft and do an heroic with 5 rogues.
Yeah.
It's doable. Just like when they started, when they released the Death Knights for the first time, and the beta for, what was the name of that expansion? I don't even remember. The expansion of the Lich King?
Was it called the Lich King?
Wrath of the Lich King, yeah. Before that, they released the Death Knights onto the Burning Crusade. And I think it was 5 Death Knights or something did one of the heroic dungeons. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, big deal. It was like 5 people who were organized. It's not really that hard to organize and do something. And especially here because, like you said, it's the first level dungeon. So it's always going to be possible to have these quirky setups. I mean, I've been in a situation where there was actually a point in World of Warcraft where I got so powerful in my character that it was really hard to kill me. I think that there was some point they buffed tanks or something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember it was so hard to kill me that I went into a dungeon and just fully equipped DPS gear. Mm-hmm. It was back in the days of the revenge buff.
Oh, yeah.
Warriors had a skill called Revenge, if you remember that. Revenge was buffed. And basically, I just went with DPS gear to see how much damage I could do. And I tanked like heroic instances in DPS gear. It wasn't really that hard. It's all about the people who are around you and having an organized group. So I don't read too much into that.
Another thing I think readers of that should consider is the fact that it was very, very early in beta that this was done. Classes aren't balanced yet. There's not a huge sample size, which is a big deal. I mean, if they have, I don't know how realistic this number is, but if they have 200 people in beta right now and that's all they're basing development on, that input on, that's not a very good sample size. Once open beta comes out, if they do an open beta and you have 100,000 people logging on, that's a pretty good sample size, and you can actually start to mold the game towards that, if you get what I mean.
Not to mention that the whole thing about, then we don't need the Holy Trinity and we don't need tanks. Well, guess what? We didn't really need those either in Guild Wars 2. And a lot of people were bitching and whining and moaning that the dungeons were really hard, when in fact they weren't. It's just that people aren't used to playing without those classes. So It's all about organizing your group. If your group is well organized, you're going to be able to do a lot of things that a lot of people will not think is possible. Like, same thing can be said, for instance, for League of Legends. Like right now, the meta game, I believe, should still be solo top with AD Bruiser at top. You have some kind of AP carry at mid, and then you have your AD and support at bottom, and one jungler running around, right? That's still the meta.
There's some people changing that up a little bit, I know.
Yeah, but basically what I want to say is that I've been in games where, for instance, you know who Vex Trinity is?
I've heard you talk about him before.
Well, Vex Trinity was in a game, and he's just really good at playing League of Legends, so he's like, I'm going to go bot with Vigor. Yeah, and just like he went AP Vigor bot and he raped everyone. That's the thing. If you have an organized group, it doesn't matter that you have the standard setup or not. It's all about your group is organized, good stuff's going to happen.
It's all about how each other reacts to what's going on. It's how you play off of each other. That's what it comes down to.
One could even say it's about synergy, which is the next topic we're going to go into.
I'll leave that one up to you.
How's that for a segue?
Here, allow me. So what do you know about synergy, Rurikhan?
Not a whole lot. We kind of read a little bit about synergy here before we started recording this. And I just thought it's interesting because, again, it's something that Guild Wars 2 has done. And I think that Guild Wars 2 did it very, very well. You probably didn't experience this in Guild Wars 2 because at your level range, I don't think there was that much synergy to begin with. But the whole point of it is, and I'm not going to talk about the Guild Wars 2 system because that would just be dumb. The thing is, they want us to be able to use your abilities in conjunction with the abilities of other players. Now, the example they were giving is that some guy casted his Holy Nova AoE spell, and then some other guy went with his Dragon Knight into the Holy Nova AoE spell, and a dialogue box popped open so that he could press a button to activate synergy. And at that point, they made a big explosion of holy power. According to what they said, they created a holy supernova.
So basically what they did was they combined two abilities.
By our powers combined.
You know what that reminds me of? I just
Planet?
thought about this. Well, no, not Captain Planet. What this reminds me of, did you ever play Final Fantasy XI?
No.
So basically, really, really old school MMO, very, very grindy. But for some reason, I was just completely addicted to that. And one of the reasons why was because you would get in these groups of, I think, 6 people, and you would have, your tanks, healers, mages, DPS, normal stuff back then. But you would build up TP, which is like when you hit stuff, you gain TP. And once you got 100, you were able to do a weapon skill. So let's say you did your weapon skill. If I was on the ball, I could go in with another weapon skill, and we would call it a reaction. It was called a weapon combo or a skill. It was called a skill chain. And what would happen is we would get different reactions based on the weapon skills that we used. So let's say we created a fusion. A fusion would be this huge explosion of red that would appear above or on top of the enemy we just used the weapon skill on, and then it would shrink, and that would be our skill chain. Now, a mage, if he was on top of things and knew what he was doing, could combo a spell of his with the fusion that just happened for something I think was called a magic burst. So it was just really intricate combat system. Now, the only problem with that is you had to know what you were doing. They never told you that this is how this works, this is how this works, and you can chain this spell with that. You had to be like super knowledgeable of the game. So it was like this advanced level stuff. Now, what that sounds like, what you just read there, what that sounds like is that I can do an ability, and without having any knowledge, you can walk up and just activate one of your abilities and make the reaction happen. I think that's a lot better of a system. It could be argued that's a lot more noob-friendly, but that's a lot better of a system.
Well, for the interest of completion, I might as well talk a little bit about the Guild Wars 2 system, which the way that one worked is like you would have specific skills for each character class, depending on the weapons you were using, would usually have at least 1 or 2 of these skills, and one of those skills would create something called a combo field. Mm-hmm. And then all the other characters would also have other skills, which would be combo finishers. And then what happens is if I create a skill that's a combo field, anyone can go there and activate a combo finisher, and it will do more damage. And you can even chain these skills with yourself. Like you can use your own combo fields and combo finishers, which sounds very similar to what they're doing here, because basically it seems to me like this guy that put down the Holy Nova created a combo field, then this other guy went into it, pressed X, activated a combo finisher, exploded the thing.
Yeah, that sounds pretty similar, yeah.
So, and I think that is really, really good, because here's the thing. That dramatically changed your performance if you knew how to do this.
Yeah.
Which again just brings that whole skill thing back into the game, which is something that I really like. I like a game where it's more about how good you are at timing your press of a specific button than how many buttons you can press at the same time.
Well, not only from a skill point of view, but also from just a community point of view. I mean, a teamwork point of view. You want to work with your team more with that kind of system in place, rather than, the WoW system of I'm doing my 4-button combo and my elemental shaman and stuff's dying and that's all I care about.
Yeah, pretty much. So the other thing we have to talk about here in gameplay mechanics is abilities. And that's going to be the last topic for today because we're already crossing on 1 hour here, which is good because this is about the timing I expected for the first EZOcast.
Well, I'll try to be kind of quick then. So abilities, how it's going to work?
There's no need to rush yourself though. We got time. Just saying.
Okay. So abilities, how it's going to work is I believe you're going to have 2 abilities based on your weapon. I think. Now I might be off here. Keep in mind I might be off here. I'm admitting that right now. But you're going to have 2 abilities based on the current weapon that you're using. And you can level up that weapon through using it. So Final Fantasy 11 is another perfect game to compare this to. You have your staff. You go hit stuff with your staff. You would then unlock more weapon abilities with that staff. More weapon combos or whatever the hell they were called. Weapon skills. Now, it sounds like you're going to be doing the same thing in Elder Scrolls Online. You're going to be using your weapon more. You're going to be unlocking more abilities to use with that weapon. To coincide with that, you're also going to be unlocking weapons based on your starting class, I think, as well as the progression of your character, however you choose to build it, so on and so forth. Now, when you go out into combat, when you're going into PvE or into a PvP environment, you're going to have to slot 6 skills. I'm pretty sure it's 6. And I think that does not include your left and right click. So you're going to have 6 skills plus your, stamina draining actions. And you're going to have to pick those 6 skills in order to appropriately deal with whatever obstacle you're going to be facing. Now, that's all I really know. I don't know if you can, change those out of combat or if you have to go back to some kind of city area. I don't know anything about that. But all I know is they want you to be thinking ahead to prepare your character for what you may face. And this also gives your character again, customization seems to be a huge deal in this. It gives you another layer of customization. How do you want to play your character? What skills do you think are best for your character? And what do you feel like using?
Now this is actually a system that I've been a fan of for a long time. Do you know, I think I know which game came up with this system first. I'm curious to see if you and I can agree on it, though. Which game do you believe came up with this system first?
What do you think?
Guild Wars 1.
I barely played Guild Wars 1. I don't even remember it, honestly.
Have you seen it before in another game, though? This particular system where you pick like 6 skills to put in your hotbar, and those are the skills you're going to have?
No MMOs. No.
You should have, because you played Guild Wars 2, and it also happens there.
Well, I was trying to think of before that.
Yeah, but I believe that Guild Wars 1 was the very first game that did this, and it was something that I really, really enjoyed because it gives me that feeling of playing Magic the Gathering. You've ever played Magic the Gathering?
No.
Well, Magic the Gathering is basically there's a bazillion cards, and out of all the existing cards, you'll have to make a deck for the cards that you want to use to play against other players, which will force you to kind of pick cards that play well with each other and all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So you'll usually make a deck which most of the times consists of about 60 cards, which is kind of the same thing that you do here. It's like you're going to go through your list of skills and you're going to be like, okay, I want this skill because it plays well with this one. Like, for instance, I want the fireball because it plays good with my staff's mana regeneration or something. And you'll pick your skills like that. And that's kind of how you decide how your character is going to be played. And I think this is a very good thing because within the same characters, even like, let's say you and I both make Dragon Knights.
Yeah.
Even between the same characters and the same races and everything, having a type of system like this in place where you can only have a certain amount of skills, we can have characters that play very, very differently from each other, thus allowing us all to be very unique snowflakes. Because that's what everybody wants to be when they play an MMO, am I right?
Dude, I played Shakaden forever. Absolutely. I'm a unique snowflake bitch.
Dude, tell me about it. I used to be the guy that PvP'd with Warrior Shield Slam, so yeah. Before it was good.
Oh, hipster Rurikhan all of a sudden.
Yeah, but I mean, I really like that system. That is a system that I can definitely stand behind, and again, it just gets me a little bit more excited about the game. Now, we wanted to talk about dungeons, but we're probably going to be saving that for the next EZO casts that you and I are going to do. We're going to be trying to do these on a weekly basis as well, if it is possible, and if there's enough information to justify making something like this. So before we end it, though, what you're going to be playing an Argonian.
Oh, yeah. Argonian bros for life, man.
What playstyle are you going to take, though?
Probably... I don't know. I've played all the Elder Scrolls games multiple times with vastly different play styles. I don't know. I think I'm going to have to wait for more information to be released. I am partial to casters. I do really like casters. So maybe once I see the list of spells that I have the potential to use, I might be able to make a decision. But I think I'm between a caster or like an archer at this point.
Well, I want to at least be able to play in the same faction as you, so it's a damn shame that you're playing the Ebonheart pack, because everybody is going to play the Ebonheart pack. But then again, there's also the characters that look the most like dwarfs, apart from their height, are the Nords.
Yeah.
So I might be doing a Nord, but regardless of whatever race I end up doing, tank, shield, and a big hammer. The problem I have with hammers, though, is I don't like the mace designs in the Elder Scrolls.
They're all very ornate.
They have those mace-like things. I think I might rather even have a sword at that point.
Yeah.
But if they could just get, it's not that hard to please me. You know what I want? I want a thing that's basically a shaft with a square on top. That's all I need.
You want Thor's hammer.
Yeah, something that looks like Thor's hammer. Doesn't even need ornaments, anything. It can be just a big friggin' blocky thing with a shaft for me to grip on. That's it. Done.
I really liked how the staves were done in Skyrim. You could shoot spells at the end of them. I thought that was a really nice effect. If they add staves, I'm going to be all over that.
It's better than shooting magic in Dark Souls, I'll give you that much. Friggin' Harry Potter style. You pew, pew.
Wingardium Leviosa.
People ask me all the time, Rurikhan, why don't you do a Dark Souls magic playthrough? Because I don't want to be like Harry Potter. How about that? But anyways, I'm derailing from the subject matter here a little bit, which probably means it's time to get this show to an end. As usual, leave us your feedback on whether or not you guys enjoyed the show in the comment section below, because obviously whether or not we work our asses off to do one of these a week will depend on your opinions as well, because if you guys don't want to see it, then we're not going to produce it. Also, remember to check out PallyTime's channel, subscribe, all that good stuff. He's also got some cool EZO coverage there that you guys can go and get some information on the setting and the classes right now, is what you said?
Yeah, working really hard on getting more topics out. Those videos take so long.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, because you see, as he is working on those videos, he's also getting more and more knowledge that he can use on this one. So it's a symbiotic, parasitic relationship.
Would you call it a synergy?
A synergy. Yeah, but that is going to be it for this particular episode.
God, I'm so funny, Rurikhan. I'm so funny.
Thank you very much for watching. This has been Rurikhan and...
Motherfucking PallyTime.
And we will see you guys in the next one.